There have been a lot of breakdowns, very well done, very factually correct breakdowns of the actions of law enforcement officers in the last two shootings in Minnesota. I would like to maybe propose that we stop doing that, though, because we're starting from a narrative framework where we're breaking them down as if it wasn't a law enforcement action. We're using the standards and practices, the legal authority that law enforcement officers have as a framework for when they're allowed to use force, much less deadly force. None of that applies here. These are not law enforcement officers. These are not justified actions. They have no standing to be treated as an agency of a legitimate government because they're acting beyond the parameters of any sort of jurisdiction or legal constitutional responsibilities and rights of anyone who actually is a law enforcement officer of any kind. These are not law enforcement officers. When we grant them even so much as the words justified, immunity, authority, all of that even in the tiniest, most subconscious way grants them that they have some authority to do this. They have some lawful standing. We need to be analyzing these crimes exactly as that, crimes. What we see in yesterday's horror was a street gang, a gang of supremacists, a gang of lawless, violent murderers, confronting a citizen of America, knocking her around. Another person tries to intervene in the criminal behavior of this band of assholes with weapons, and that person is pepper sprayed, brutalized, thrown to the ground, his own possession stolen from him. And I don't care what that possession was, because it was his possession. He had a lawful right to have it. He wasn't doing anything with it that would have justified even the most criminal of person claiming self-defense. My cat agrees. So this gang then throws this man to the ground, piles on top of him, begins beating him, begins pistol whipping him, and then one of them shoots him and kills him. And then the gang of fucking criminal thugs, by use of their intimidation, which has given them some kind of power in the streets and in the courts and with our police, dude, apparently he's very opinionated on this matter as well. But that gang then gets to retreat and hide and believe that they have no consequences, because through fear, through violence, through a system that enables, supports, and has sent them out onto the street, like the head of a cartel, they're protected from consequences of their actions. But they're a criminal gang. They are all criminals. They are murderers. Even the ones who haven't pulled the trigger are just murderers waiting for their chance. They find it fun. Sure, they may have some paperwork that makes it seem like they're legitimate. That just means they're a gang with paperwork. But everything that they do on the streets of this country is not legal. Everything that they do on the streets of this country is a fucking crime. And no memo from their higher ups, no person standing at a podium who has no actual fundamental constitutional right to be there telling them that they have absolute immunity makes what they're doing not crimes. They are criminals. They are not law enforcement. They are not federal agents. They are criminals. Anyone who supports and abets them is part of a criminal enterprise. And I know that, yes, they're part of our regime. But when we frame it that way, instead of framing it as these are law enforcement officials, these are federal agents, the president and the vice president, given them authority. Kristi Noem is a legitimate head of this office. She's a criminal. The other two they're all criminals. This is a gang of terrorists working for somebody who is dismantling and destroying our country. The mainstream media will all day sit there and try to use the language of power and authority and institutions and norms as if all of this somehow fits into a sane network, as if we still have a government, as if we still have systems in place that protect us. At this point, any person who has authority, has power, has leverage, has responsibilities, and still acting to protect the people that person and anyone that they collaborate with is almost doing it independently of our actual government. They are doing it independently or as a collective trying to help. If a judge or a police chief or a mayor acts to protect their citizens and says ICE has to get out and they take action against them, those people are making the choice to act on behalf of us, to be with us against the people holding office and power, against our government. So our government is no longer for us. That's why I say we don't have one. The government has been taken over and it works only for itself now. These are all criminals. Every fucking one of them. And every narrative, every dialogue about it has to start from that premise. Not that there's any legitimacy, not that there's any authority, not that they have any rights to do what they're doing. We have to start from the basic cognitive and linguistic understanding that these are criminals. Nothing they do is justified. Nothing they do is legal. Nothing that they do is anything that they have the authority to do. So no, none of those shots, none of their behaviors were justified uses of force, because use of force justifications and laws only apply to legitimate authorities. I don't know, I'm so tired. At least I got this guy. Listen, I love you. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Remember, we've got to stop saying they can't do that. Because the thing that's supposed to restrain them are the laws that they've shit all over. So they can and they will. It's on us and any individual who has any sort of power to help us, who chooses on their own heart to do what's right, in spite of all of them. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Stay angry.